I want to think about some more metaphysics of free will and stuff like that, if possible. But this is a different consideration here because it has to do with the metaphysics of Peter von Inwagen, who is a very established metaphysician. But he wrote this paper, incompatibility of free will and determinism, where he talks about he gives his definition of free will, and then he gives his definition of determinism, and discusses why the two aren't compatible, and he gives his refutation of compatibilism, or compatibilism is that view that you can have free will and determinism. Free will, to von Inwagen, is the power of agents to do otherwise, agents being subjects. Free will is the power for us to act otherwise, the power us to do things otherwise than was previously planned, by the world, or whatever is running the world. And determinism, by von Inwagen's definition, is for every instant of time there is a proposition that expresses the state of the world at that instant. So basically, if determinism is the view that things are predetermined, and then that things are already going to happen a certain way, and and most of the time it's usually a view that the agents don't have much power over things. So basically, if you're a determinist, if you're thinking determinism, and you're thinking that you're thinking that you should be thinking that every instance of time that there is in the world, there should be a proposition that that expresses the state of the world. Now, I want to think about the idea of a proposition expressing the state of the world. Now, I have a bit of a problem with this definition of determinism. First of all, if we had this proposition that would express the state of the world at every instant that the world exists, who would have this proposition? Who would? I mean, it might not matter. I don't know. But if there was this proposition, who would write it? Who would know it? And and I guess let's say that there was not previously a God, but then there happens to. I'm not arguing this is possible or anything like that. I'm just saying that this is. Let's say it just happened that there wasn't a God previously, and then there happened to just be a God immediately. And this God would be able to give a proposition that expresses the state of the world at every instant. I don't know. I think this would be the only way that this would be able to be possible is if it was from a omniscient being. The very idea of a proposition that expresses the world is a very difficult one for me to wrap my head around. First of all, there are no beings in this world. I mean, if you are an atheist, there is no beings in this world that could possibly get a hold of this proposition. There's no being here, because we're all mortal, we're all small, we're all basically tiny little beings among an enormous universe. Basically, what this is that we cannot have, as people, we cannot. There's no possibility of us having this. There's no possibility of us having this proposition at all. So I guess if you are a atheist and you're saying this, which I don't know if he is, I'm guessing that he is, because just because of war, or just because of what this idea points to. Because basically, if you're a Christian or anything like that, I guess I don't know, but it seemed to me that if you're a theist of any kind, that you would be a compatibilist. But I mean, I guess I'm just thinking But what I'm saying is that if there is no beings that can have this proposition, then that proposition doesn't exist. Because we are basically let's kind of go back to antinatalists here. They're saying that if we let the whole existence of the people of the world go out, and we let existence die out, then there's nobody here, and which would mean that the world doesn't exist because it exists for no one. Because basically something exists, it exists for you. The things that exist around you, I'm thinking about this a little bit phenomenologically here. It exists for you. It exists for those who experience it. And when those people are gone, are gone, there's no beings for that universe to be in existence for. And thus, the universe goes out of existence like that, because there's no possible way of that thing being perceived. So, as far as anyone can possibly know, the world doesn't exist anymore. So, what this means is that for every what this determinism is saying, that for every instant of time there is a proposition that expresses the state of the world at that instant. You're saying that for every moment that passes, there's a certain proposition that expresses the state of the world. For one thing, I think that it is difficult it's not possible for any beings like myself or yourself to get this proposition. It's not possible at all. So, and then I guess furthermore, is it possible for a mere proposition to express the state of the world? Determinism, in the theist sense, I guess in my sense, from my theistic perspective, is that determinism is that the God knows everything that has happened and will happen. Therefore, it's pretty much already fallen into place, and which is why everything's predetermined. And I think it might be possible if there are many propositions that express the world at each instant. But I guess I have a problem with von Inwagen's definition of determinism. And I guess how I would describe it is just all things that are to happen is predetermined. Predetermined and, sort of known by something other than, or I guess it's just that it's predetermined. It is, everything is gonna happen a certain way. But I guess I can't really prove my compatibilist idea, is because my compatibilist idea of this comes from my Christianity and theism. Because my determinism comes from the idea that God knows all, which is why things are predetermined, because there is a being that does know everything that will happen, and but at the same time, there are beings who have a feeling like they have power of whether to go buy a 6-pack of beer or not go buy a six-pack of beer. But I guess I have a problem with his definition of determinism, and I think there needs to be a new definition. Because for one thing, for a proposition to exist, there has to be beings who have it, and I find it very not impossible for beings like me or you or anybody who are like us, as very finite beings on a very finite planet in a very finite part of the universe, to have such a proposition as von Inwagen suggests that this theory would hold. And I guess if we can't have that, if it's not possible for us to have that, then who would have that? Who would have it? Who? And I guess it's possible for there to be an omniscient being, this, that does have this, but if there's no way for this thing to be understood, then there's no way for that to exist. Because if it exists for no one, then it doesn't exist. But I don't know. I guess what I'm moving toward here is that there's problems with von Inwagen's definition of determinism, and that in my personal opinion that these two ideas of free will and determinism are possible and compatible with each other, which is why I think compatibilism is still a very non-fallacious idea to hold.